One quiz for you. In a cohort study reporting the association of tobacco use and lung cancer, how would you interpret a relative risk of 23? So if somebody reports in his paper and tells you, I found the relative risk of tobacco in causing lung cancer 23, what does it mean? What does it mean, the 23? Okay, if you're curious, let us see the rest of the presentation. Lung cancer is a rare disease. Therefore, in rare diseases, it is easier actually to conduct the case control studies. But our intention here is to calculate the relative risk, which is actually more calculated in cohort studies. Anyways, here an example. We have people with lung cancer. How many? 127 with lung cancer. From how many people? From a total of 14,500. So approximately, it's very rare disease. The prevalence would be 127 divided by 14,546. This would be the prevalence. And from these people, some were smokers, some not. Some of the lung cancer smokers, how many? 124 were smokers, and 3 were non-smokers. Okay. Now, if you want to calculate the relative risk, that means what? This risk represents the increased risk of disease among exposed persons as compared with the unexposed persons. So incidence among the exposed is 125 divided by 9,207. This is 1.34%. The incidence of the non-exposed, on the other hand, is calculated 0.06. If you divide these two together, then you will get the relative risk. Very simple, isn't it? And how you interpret it? You interpret it by saying smokers are 24 times more in risk of developing lung cancer in comparison to those who don't smoke. That would be how you read it in lay language, explain it to your patients, or understand it. Then we have also, I'm not trying to make it complicated for you, but you will sometimes hear this attributable risk. Attributable risk, the relative risk represents the incidence of the increased risk of disease among exposed persons as opposed to the unexposed that we already have in our pocket. Now, attributable risk is the excess risk of disease in the exposed as compared to the unexposed. Sometimes you will see that they calculate the attributable risk. The risk of smokers, risk of non-smokers, 124, 3, and if you subtract these two from each other, you will get the attributable risk. That means what? That means for every 1,000 people that smoke, there are an additional 12.8 deaths due to lung cancer. So don't get surprised if you read or hear this attributable risk, although we don't use it as much common as relative risk or odds ratio. Odds ratio and relative risks, they're interpreted in the same manner. Their meaning, their interpretation is the same, but their calculation differs a little bit. Their calculation is a little bit different. However, if you have a rare disease like lung cancer, then it doesn't matter so much because the total of C and D, these two cells here, they are so high that it doesn't matter because of the rarity of the disease. It doesn't matter very much whether you calculate the odds ratio or the relative risk. As you see in this example, this is the formula for the relative risk. Here on the right side, you have the formula for the odds ratio, and they are returning almost the same numbers. Because what? Because the disease is very rare. 6 and 3, that does not make much difference. Okay, good. Another break, and then I will continue. Stop recording.